his own mother accidentally seduced him and fell in love. Yeah, man, I just saw the title of this video and I was like, what the hell? But let's get into it.
A notorious serial killer announces on a radio show that he plans to kill again, which leads him to retell his past that led him to be the person that he is.
Wait, it just starts off like this? That's crazy.
And Ambrose, the host of a famous radio show, discusses the topic of matricide with her guest, Dr. Leo Richmond, a psychiatrist. Together, they interview Raymond Lynette, a man out on parole after committing matricide, which means killing one's mother. In the interview, they learn that Raymond's grandfather, George, is responsible for getting him on parole, which is ironic because his own grandson killed his daughter. However, George doesn't feel sorry for her and explains that she didn't deserve his grandson. When a caller asks if women commit the same crime, Dr. Richmond shares that women don't commit matricide as much as men do. Fran wonders if it's because they're better at keeping their tracks clean. The psychiatrist adds that his first experience with a mother killer was about 30 years ago, when a young man turned himself into his own mother by dressing in her clothes and copying her voice.
Hey, yo, I know my boy horrified. Bro went home and said, hey, mama, and his mama said, sup, honey?
The illusion was to convince himself that she was still alive and that he didn't kill her. After the interview with Raymond, Fran gets her next caller, a man who goes by the name Ed. Ed claims that he'll provide real insight into why matricide tends to happen to men because he too has done it. He adds that he's killed many women, the first being a random woman who only wanted to
Wait, why did he just confess to himself on a talk show? This snitching on himself, bro? What the hell? This is the self-snitching talk show? Hello, everybody. We're on the self-snitching talk show, and today we're here to get murderers snitch on themselves who killed their own mother. So let's tell them all who killed their mother today. Did you do it? Yeah, I popped mines. Oh, 911 on your way. Right to your address, baby. What the hell?
With him. Now, he might have to kill again. Back then, the woman asked Norman, Ed's real name, if he wanted to see the fireworks. However, he said that he needed to stay in the motel's office to accommodate some customers. Just then, a couple told Norman that their toilet was clogged, so he momentarily left the lady. Meanwhile, she snuck into Norman's house to give him a little scare. Norman panicked as he looked for the lady, and when he found her, he got flustered. Shortly after, they headed to his room, where the woman invited him to the bed. However, before anything could happen, Norman heard a loud thud outside. Thinking that it was his ailing mother, he went to her room to check on her. When he got there, his mother told him to kill the lady as she won't allow Norman to bring women into her house. She also added that she wanted him to remain her innocent child and best friend.
Wait, his mom's sick or something? They didn't say that about his mom being sick. Why is mom just laying there?
However, as he sat at his mother's bedside, it was revealed that he only imagined her voice, and what was on the bed was actually her corpse. He then
Whoa there, buddy!
Took the corpse's wig and dressed in his mother's clothes. When his lady snuck into the room looking for Norman, he mercilessly stabbed her. Listening to Norman's story, Fran can't help but be dazed. Just then, Dr. Richmond asks their caller where he lived when he killed his mother, but the man refuses to answer and abruptly ends the call. Just then, Connie, Norman's wife, calls him to pick up a cake for his own birthday.
So I wonder how bro got married after packing people up because he loved his mama so much, but his mama actually packed. Because I think he packed his own mom. I'm so lost. Like, what the hell am I watching here?
Says it's bad luck for him to get his own cake, so Connie decides to have it delivered to her workplace instead. She then asks if he's upset about the news she told him, but Norman gives a passive-aggressive reply. After this, Norman decides to call the radio show again. Fran is glad to have him back, and she immediately starts asking him questions. Norman shares that his mother made him feel unsure because sometimes she treats him well, but she can also be frigid. He also adds that she was also like this to his father, who died when he was 6. Norman then recalls his father's wake, whose death was caused by bees attacking him.
How the hell? That is the most tragic way to go. Imagine saying, I got soloed by bees, man. Bees? Yeah, bees.
During the wake, his mother tickled him to make him laugh, and when he did, she smacked him and demanded respect for the dead. At present, Norman imagines this memory and sees his father's corpse trying to escape the coffin. However, he snaps back into reality when his neighbor, Mrs. Lane, knocks on the door. She tells him that Connie called to have her tell him that the cake is on the way. After this, he quickly dismisses Mrs. Lane and returns to the show. As he's about to end the call, Fran asks him to share some good things about his mother. Norman happily shares that she always kept her hair tied, but when they were alone, she let it loose. This is what he remembers about her. Her beauty.
Why is she over him like that? What the heck, boy? What in the EDP am I watching?
Beautiful hair. In times like these, he feels more than just a child. Norman suddenly shares about his mother's past boyfriend, whom he claims she never needed because he was the man of the house. When he was 15, he single-handedly ran the motel, and his mother was very dependent on him. One night, she was afraid of the thunder, so she summoned Norman from the motel office. He arrived in her room, soaked.
Why they got a motel in front of their house? That weird. I'm just saying. That creepy right there. Is that the only person creeping out? Like what?
The rain. His mother told him to remove his clothes and hold her in his arms. Norman did as he was told.
What the hell? His mama is a EDP.
Give it up and down up.
But he got mortified when he realized that his manly urges were acting up, causing him to leave and run to his room. Puzzled, his mother followed him. Then she...
First thing first, Mom, why would you even tell your own son to do that? Second thing second, why would you do that, son? Y'all weird! This must be in Alabama. Gotta be in Alabama. Ain't no way no one just saying, hey, son, take the clothes off. Hey, this is Alabama. What the hell is happening here? Weird!
Talked about how upset she was while scanning the magazines on Norman's desk. However, she found a magazine with explicit content. Furious, she told Norman to throw it in the garbage. As he was about to get dressed, she told him to go outside bare because she wanted the rain to wash his sins away.
Bro, what? I think his mom might just be kind of crazy. I think them bees really messed her up.
At present, Dr. Richmond asks Norman if there's a hint of jealousy toward his mom's boyfriend. Norman replies that he didn't see his mother in a romantic light. Instead, Norman shares that most people would assume that his psychotic tendencies are caused by genetics. He believed this after seeing his mother lose her mind. He then shared his mother's most deranged moments. The summer before he killed her, there was a heat wave in their town, and his mother hated it. As Norman poured her a drink, she asked him to massage her with orange flower water. Although he was hesitant to touch her, he still...
What, Daddy? What's orange flower water? What the heck is that?
Still did as he was told. Suddenly, his mother surprised him, and the two ended up cuddling and tickling each other. However, she suddenly recalled the incident about the magazine. She pushed Norman off her then...
Hey, yo! Huh? At least you do Alabama, man. At least be dedicated. Y'all confusing me. Y'all hurt my brain with this one.
Dressed him in women's clothes, saying that he should be a lady so he'd forget what it was like to be a man. After this, she placed lipstick on him and locked him in a closet, calling him Norma. As Norman shares this traumatic experience, he lies on the floor, reenacting his situation in the closet. Just then, he says he'll be back and drops the call. While he's away, Dr. Richmond approaches the production team, claiming that Ed is Norman Bates, a notorious serial killer that was once his patient. Assuming that he's Norman, they agree to discreetly try to uncover his motives for killing again. Knowing that Norman is from Fairvale, California, the production team sends someone there to check if he still lives in the motel. Shortly after, Norman calls again, but he gets bothered by Dr. Richmond's condescending questions. As he's about to hang up, Fran saves the
self-snitching on himself. This is Norman's fault in the first place.
Conversation and asks what it was like after killing his mother. Norman then shares about when a new freeway was built in Fairvale. Infuriated that this might put them out of business, Norman's mother used him as an outlet for her anger. She screamed that he had no drop of sympathy, just like her father. Then she added that she should have killed him in her womb because everything went downhill since he was born. Listening to this...
Damn, bro. That's actually rough. That's actually rough, bro. That's rough.
Fran says that his mother was horrible. Norman replies that she wasn't always like that, and in fact, she was a remarkable woman. Just then, Dr. Richmond butts in and says she was so remarkable that it drove him to kill her. Suddenly, Fran calls for a quick break to talk to Dr. Richmond privately. She says she'll handle all the talking because Norman seems to have some hostility against the doctor. Just then, the production team walks in, reporting that Norman left the motel after the murders. Before they resume the show, Fran tells Dr. Richmond to stay out of the interview, but he disagrees, saying that she can't talk to a psychopathic killer without a professional. Fran
Why?
and the production team refuse to have him on the show, so Dr. Richmond leaves, saying they'll be held accountable if Norman kills again. After this, Fran resumes the show. Norman then shares that it's his birthday and his wife will be home soon. Fran asks where he met her, and Norman replies that she's a psychologist back in the institution. After asking a series of questions, Fran learns that Norman lives in a house that his wife owned from a previous marriage. Then they get to the part about how Norman killed his mother. He replies that he did it slowly and that what drove him to ultimately kill her was when she started bringing her boyfriend home. Back then,
So bro did get jealous, as I said, yeah.
he spied on them through a hole in the wall while they copulated. The following day, Norman woke up in a bad mood, making his mother realize that he had seen them last night. She then proudly shared that Chet, her boyfriend, would be living with them from now on. She added that they'd get married after he got his divorce. Just then, Chet walked in wearing the robe of Norman's father. Norman told him to take it off, but Chet replied that men should only be bare around women if they're copulating. Days later, Chet asked Norman to practice boxing with him. He purposely made Norman angry, which gave him the excuse to beat him up. As
Nah, Chet's a douche. Chet is a douche. What a douchebag, dude. Yeah.
Norman was on the ground, his mother and Chet laughed at him. As Norman remembers this, he gets so enraged that he splits an apple in two. He falls silent for a while, so Fran ends up pausing the show. When he returns, Fran asks if Norman's mother has anything to do with him killing again. He says not directly, but adds that she does have a strong influence on his behavior. After his last murders 4 years ago, he wanted to be kept from the world so he'd never hurt anyone again. He then reveals that he wants to protect everyone from Norman Bates. This confirms who he is, so Fran lets him continue. Norman then shares that instead of getting executed, the authorities sent him to Sedonia, where he got some heavy therapy. Fran wonders why he would ruin his life now by killing again. She reckons that Norman wants her to stop him, but he replies that he can prove her wrong by dropping the call. Fran gets
He ain't wrong. All you gotta do is just drop the call and stop self-snitching.
so overwhelmed with their conversation that she tells Norman to stand by while she takes another caller. However, the new caller still talks about Norman, prompting him to share about his second victim, who was an older woman. That night, he ended up in her car while they made out. He then excused himself to give his mother her medication, but after he left, his date overheard his mother calling out his cheap desires and urging him to kill
Those just like old ladies. That's what's happening here, huh?
her. Soon, Norman entered the woman's car in his mother's clothes and wig. He then strangled her while ordering her to drive. Shortly after, they reached a swamp, where Norman ensured the woman was dead. After loading her into the trunk, he pushed the
What was the purpose, bro?
car into the water, and as it sank, the woman, who was only knocked out, pleaded to be let out. Realizing that she was drowning in the trunk, Norman was left traumatized. Just then, Fran asks Norman if his mother is driving him to kill again, but he replies that she's no longer around to do that. He adds that the emptiness took a while to sink in, but when he saw his mother in a coffin, he knew he had to do anything to keep her. Because of this, he performed taxidermy on her. Suddenly, Fran tells Norman that the show ends at 10 p.m., so she asserts that the emptiness he felt when his mother died will be experienced by his wife if he kills again. However,
Whoa. This is just weird, bro. This is weird as hell.
Norman doesn't
But
care
interesting.
and adds that she deserves to die. This revelation makes Fran freeze, realizing that Norman plans to kill his own wife. She then turns her mic off and tells the production team to alert the newspapers. When she returns to the call, she asks Norman why he would do such a thing. He then reveals that his wife let herself get pregnant, although they agreed never to have kids because of his genes that have tendencies to end up as psychos. She stopped taking her pill and kept this from from him. Norman wants the Bates line to end with him, but his wife insists on having the child. Because of this, he's made up his mind to end her. Fran tries to talk him out of it, saying that Connie's mind might not be made up yet, but Norman replies that she'll never change her mind. Suddenly, Norman recalls when he killed his
bro said, my bloodline defective, it's evil, it's horrible. I want our bloodline in here. We don't deserve to live killers.
As she was with Chet, Norman prepared a poisoned drink, which he then served to them. Chet drank first, then headed to the bathroom. As Norman's mother gulped down her drink, Chet came out with his mouth foaming. When he said that it was poisoned, Norman's mother suddenly felt pain in her gut. Then she told Chet to kill her son. However, Norman simply fought him off the stairs. Just then, his mother desperately tried to chase him down the stairs. As she was about to scream, Norman pinned her to the floor and covered her mouth. When she no longer moved, he dragged her to the basement, where she regained consciousness. Norman then wiped her clean, then watched as she died slowly. Suddenly, Chet appeared out of nowhere and started strangling him, but he didn't last long and died too. Norman then stared at his mother's dead body while eating popcorn.
Nah, bro, eating popcorn is crazy, bro. Norman's a menace.
He finishes telling this story. He tells Fran that the show is over. Worried about what he'll do, the host tries keeping him on the line, but Norman drops the call. Shortly after, he calls Connie and tells her to meet him at his mother's old house. When she gets there, Norman takes her inside. The two then get to talk about the baby, and Connie reassures him that they can pull off being parents. However, Norman only pulls her upstairs, where he tells her to wait while he grabs a knife. When Connie realizes this, she shivers in fear. Norman tries mustering the courage to kill her, and as he hesitates, Connie makes a run for it. She tries
slow poke, boy. Gotta be quicker than that.
Hiding in the basement, but before she can leave the house, she finds Norman before her. He then pins her to the wall with a knife against her throat. As he does this, he sees his reflection in the blade, which dazes him for a second. Connie tells him that he's no longer the person that he was. She also pleads with him to give her
he was always this person. You just never really knew the true him, lady.
her and the baby a chance and for him to no longer shed blood. As she reminds him of how much she loves him, Norman lets go of the knife. The two then embrace each other. Before they go home, Norman burns down the house so he can fully let go of the past. However, as the place gets engulfed in flames, he struggles to leave when illusions of the people he killed suddenly appear. Because of this, he falls from the stairs and gets injured. Outside, Connie gets alarmed when Norman doesn't come out of the house. Norman crawls to the basement, hallucinating his mother's skeleton falling on him. Still, he makes it out to the exit, and Connie immediately assists him. The following morning, the fire dies down with the help of firefighters. Norman takes one last look at the house, then tells Connie that he's finally free. As they leave, the ghost of Norman's mother screams and demands to be freed. Soon, an infant's cry is heard as the Bates bloodline continues.
Subscribe to
That was a weird ass video.